Hi everyone, I'm Airier, and today we're going to be looking at the next part of the Amaris Civil War Part 2 from Tex Talks Battletech. So last time around we got the first bit of this story where Tex basically went through all the different aspects he covered in the first one and all the things I missed, and I was like, oh, let's pretend I recognize this. Yeah, now if I sound a little different, it's because I'm a little sick right now, and I'm also absolutely terrified because I just had to take a COVID test, and I don't know what the results are yet. So, to distract myself, we're going to jump right in and see what happens here. So we're going to jump in. You guys know the deal. Link below, original video. Hit it up. And when you're done, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. Let's get started. The Amaris Civil War. The true beginning of the video. And everything's
The
about to
Amaris
fuck up.
Civil War would rage from 2766 to 2780 in a 14-year campaign that would decide the ultimate fate of Star League. It would cost in the end humanity generations of lives in indiscriminate slaughter.
I'm trying to wonder, it's a 14-year time frame for the war, but how does that work out? Like, is that mostly downtime, or are we talking like significant, sudden, constant, long-lasting deployments? Because I'm not really sure the size of battle, because 2K was days, for example, and before that it was a blitzkrieg, and that's really my biggest idea of what large-scale combat looks like. It's really damn fast, and when you pull it down, it's a matter of days, not long, drawn out, that's the word, almost trench warfare style of you get nothing. So either this was really intense fighting, or they were really just going back and forth at each other, and there's a lot of transit time. I just don't know how that plays out. So if anyone knows, let me know, because I'm actually really curious. Does that imply that there was long-running battles where they were just trying to hold the line but not really doing it? Or were there a lot of slowdowns based on transportation issues? I don't know, but I'm really curious.
Each and every weapon ever crafted by humanity would be used in the greatest contest of wills, arms, and armies ever seen.
What is that?
This war was the end result of, and made worse by, a seemingly endless arms race that until now lacked an outlet for its destructive energies.
Okay, one, this is some of the newer art because it looks hyper detailed and not over the top stupid in the face of the human. Also, this guy, I can't tell if he's shouting back to his men, "We're fucked!" But this guy has the right idea. You're useless here. Yeah, no. When you have this many war machines this close in knife fighting range with this many lasers, and you're just going like, "Yep, I'm dead." Yeah, no. Biggest balls. Or he's about to run away screaming. Could be either one. Probably won't matter because they're also probably about to be very dead.
This was a war unlike any other in the history of man up to this point, so comparisons are hard
so they
to
didn't have
make
any
directly.
earlier history that did
For
massive
the
wars.
first time, humanity was at war with itself across the entire span of the inner sphere.
So it's the equivalent of World War I.
From the Rim World's republic to the Terran hegemony, this world would touch hundreds of worlds, leaving many blasted, radiated, and broken wastelands in its wake.
Huh.
This was a war that seldom offered any quarter, and civilian populations died in terror as increasingly destructive weapons were utilized by desperate combatants.
He mentioned that there was a lot of blasted wasteland worlds. Considering how long it would take for the radiation to reach a safe level, most of those worlds are still probably places you should be a no-go on. But at least in the current timeline, it's been a couple centuries, I think. Would that be long enough that someone could at least get down there to scavenge for tech? Or is that something that people already did because fuck having a lifespan? You know what, never mind, I know exactly what it is. It's probably the second one. It's definitely fuck having a lifespan, I'm gonna get this shit. And then pass it on to kill someone else because it's completely irradiated. Yeah, that's definitely what happened.
This was a war where slaughter was the norm, and strategic weapons were just another tool. At least in the eyes of Amaris. The Amaris Civil War started with surgical precision as a calculated coup. And when Amaris turned from coup phase to an actual war footing, both his Rimworld's Republic and the SLDF stood atop tremendous, though wholly different, resources to commit to their campaign.
So, wait.
The Grand
Now that's interesting. I was assuming they would actually be standing on very similar resources, just lots of mechs and a lot of starships. But Tex saying that they have different aspects, or sorry, different resources that they're standing on is very interesting. Oh, that, and he just mentioned, he previously said that they were using strategic weapons. So Oh, I think I get it. When they say they're standing on different stockpiles, well, he didn't say stockpiles, but that's pretty much what he probably meant. The SODF has the tech. They have the warships. They have the fighters. They have the people who are ungodly good at what they do. Looking at you, Blackwatch. Technically not a part of it, but I'm going to ignore that for, TLDR. Why not? Not sure TLDR is the right word to use. I don't actually know what that means. I'm going to ignore that as well. But more importantly, they have the straight down, in your face, beat you in the face, you dead type power. Also known as a giant mech is about to step on you, a la that guy in the art earlier. Well, I'm assuming that means Amaris then has all the world go boom. You know how I previously joked a lot about rocks fall, everybody dies? I'm assuming that level. Not kinetic kill vehicles, but more, here's a giant mile-wide pile of you gonna die. I'm dropping it. It's gonna hit your planet. You're not gonna have a planet. Or just all the nukes. Probably just all the nukes. They're a lot easier to transport. Lots of nukes. I mean, it's not like he has a habit of using them already.
Was control of the Terran hegemony, the potential rule of Starleague itself, and by extension, the future of the Inner Sphere. For the sake of historical note, I will have to try to explain something here. While Kerensky was busy in the periphery, Amaris had struck and struck well. The head of House Cameron was vaporized.
Really, Tex? This is the second time you've done it, but instead of just making it an over-the-top reference, you're doing it as a pun. I'm actually a little jealous. Also, who's wearing the glasses that we're seeing here? It's probably Amaris.
The inheritors of that name dead or gone.
Missing for hundreds of years.
And it is keen to note that consolidating an empire isn't merely a change of flags. Further, when he came under attack by mad bastards who loved kilts, bagpipes, and murder,
fucking bagpipes, man,
not necessarily in that order, he had been reminded on the pain of hubris. Again, for the record, I say this event scarred Amaris. For Amaris was reminded that he was mortal, and that it took the use of tactical nukes and many of his best men to stop people so angry they refused to die.
Yeah. When you can say that you have literally spent at least 3 nukes to kill people, and you needed double nukes at the end just to make sure, and if someone tells me later on one of them crawled out, I'm not sure if they're going to be joking or not. Because, fuck, man. That's about all I can say there. When you need multiple nukes, yeah, I know people give him a lot of flack, and I probably will as well, for it's like, you know what, I'm going to go crazy now. When you actually need multiple nukes to kill 4 people, or maybe just 5, I don't know, maybe it was 3. I don't actually know the exact numbers. People did the math, but that was so many weeks ago I forgot because I have a shit memory. Yeah, the Blackwatch, man. Yeah. When multiple nukes are enough.
My opinion of record that the Black Watch haunted Amaris in ways he'd never considered possible.
Oh.
It's not surprising that he'd be unable to forget the Black Watch.
Yeah.
After all, their resistance was quickly becoming a legend. And when a unit's favorite grenade is satchel charges, it seems to leave an impression at the very least. But in the aftermath of nearly dying to the batshit madness of the Black Watch, that brush with the possibility of a gruesome end and failure had, again, in my opinion, a profound effect on Amaris. My evidence is the historical note that he became increasingly paranoid after this event.
There we go.
And began to clamp down on the population to ensure, at any cost, he would be safe.
I'm not surprised. I kind of figured this would happen back during the entire Blackwatch bit in the last video. Because again, it's badass from our perspective, but when you have literally multiple nukes that hit the people you want dead, and you need more nukes because they ain't dead, that's terrifying. It's like, you want Slender Man? Have you ever nuked a Slender Man? No, because it's made up. And so is the Snankly, but we're going to ignore that because fuck. I keep going back to multiple nukes were required. And because the first few didn't do the job, yeah. I did wonder for a while if this is what's going to lead to the, well, insanity everyone's talking about. And yeah, Tex just confirmed it. Paranoia. I know the joke is that it's not paranoia if people are actually out to get you. No, that's bullshit. If people are actually out to get you, you're being cautious. If you're paranoid, it's because it doesn't matter if they're out to get you. You're reacting to the people in the walls who have microphones in their houses listening to you poop in a house that's not yours. And if you see the problem with that logic, it's because you broke into someone else's house out of your own paranoia. And if you think I'm bullshitting about that, just look up anything that involves the word Florida man. It's probably at least a dozen stories about it in the top 10 results in Google. I made that up off the top of my head, but I have absolutely no doubt it will happen or has already happened because Florida. Also paranoia, but mostly Florida.
Coup secured, Amaris did not just
Fun
sit
is now
idle.
canceled.
Again, as building an empire.
Yep, we still sponsor him. Golden Corral. We're the only restaurant now. Now that just sounds like a threat. Probably is. Are any of these? I can't read that. I wish I could. Bagpipes are also banned. Live now. Fun is now canceled.
Fire isn't
I love
something
every
you
time we
can
go to this
handle
scene.
with a pin. No.
Oh, seriously, who hurt Tex when it came to
are
Golden Corral
forged
other
by
than
the
Golden
sword.
Corral's food?
To the point.
Never mind,
In the
I answered my own
first week
question.
of January, Amaris imported tens of thousands of hand-picked, utterly loyal men from the Rimworld's Republic that would serve as the foundation for the hegemony security forces.
Wait,
Their
you can
aim
already do that?
to make problems go away.
Oh,
By go
they're the
away,
extra
I mean
legal
root
ones.
out dissidents, naysayers, or anyone with any strong objection to Amaris's rule and make them disappear
yeah,
by any
every
means
autocrat does this.
possible.
It's par for course of the
These
playbook.
agents forming the hegemony security
those were
forces
feet at
would,
first.
through their calculated, state-sponsored cruelty, give Amaris the power he'd aspired for. Their excesses in cruel methodology would haunt the worlds they touched for generations. Publicly, Amaris insisted on at least pretending things were normal. Normal for Amaris's taste, anyhow.
You know, there's a reason most dictators don't die peacefully. It's because they pull shit like this. And people, when forced to the brink, where they literally don't have the chance of peace, where you go from the crazy asshole bread and circuses to just, there's a circus, you're the main act, and you're competing against grizzly bears and they're very hungry. It goes from, okay, just keep people happy to fuck all of them. The thing is, when you go, fuck all of them, usually people are like, no, fuck you. And then they do it. Yeah. I mean, him being set up as a, okay, no, fuck this. I'm just kind of wondering who's going to get to kill him first at this point.
To gain the barest sliver of legitimacy as a ruling power, he called for immediate votes for a new Director General of the hegemony, and further
killed
the
off anyone who
appearance
didn't
of
vote for him?
legitimacy by directly appointing a hegemony noble to serve in
Shocking.
the interim until a vote could be had.
Again, it's
The
basically
vote for the
Palpatine
new
101.
Hegemony Director General was organized swiftly through the widespread placement of the new hegemony security forces and thorough integration of Rimworld's Republic units throughout the occupied territory prior to the coup. The vote was held.
Look at this fine fellow. Free motorcycle giveaway for the most votes for Amaris. 0 to 200 kilometers per hour in 2 seconds. Really fun. Super dangerous. Because remember, kids, if you vote multiple times for Amaris, we're going to make sure no one can find your body to claim it. 50 free Amaris bucks for every person you rat out. Do your part to exterminate wrongthink. Call the Hegemony Security Forces today. Missing. Remember the Black Watch. Okay, the graffiti down at the bottom is probably the best part. Just because, remember the Black Watch as a hashtag? Oh God, that actually makes sense. Of course, hashtags probably don't exist in Battletech because it's pre-Twitter, but as just a local parlance now, as an idea of getting a message across, using a hashtag as just a way to say, hey, this is the catchy phrase, is probably going to become something very standardized. So I don't think it was intentional. It was just a meme and just funny, which it is. But I can actually see in the far future, putting a hashtag down like that is actually a viable way to get across an idea. in a non-Twitter format. Unless we're really lucky and Twitter dies out, but I don't think we're that lucky.
Despite widespread destruction, panic, and near-total communications breakdown during the coup, and limited repair afterwards. Further, there was the consideration that hegemony analysts projected at best a 10% turnout for the vote, considering the widespread issues with organizing a vote. Honestly, in a for chaotic
some of these kind of sham elections, that's actually high.
But that wouldn't do for Amaris.
To give an idea of just how bad that is, you might think 10% is bad, and it is, but in America, it's maybe up to 60% on average for most elections. Anything higher than that, 65% is huge. So yes, a drop down to 10% is fuck. But at the same time, it's bad. It's just probably not as bad as everyone was thinking. You don't get 100%. And anyone who says 100% is usually making up so much bullshit. It's like, oh yes, everybody voted. And they all voted for me. It's the point where you want to say everyone voted, but you also don't want to care enough to hide the fact that you're corrupt because you don't need to. Which I'm assuming is what's about to happen.
He had a new empire to run after all.
Don't make
an 85% turnout with 70% overwhelmingly voting for Amaris. This was a fairly amazing feat considering many of these worlds were cut off from the HPG network and over half the planetary governors were dead or missing. Regardless of the legality, Amaris had his title.
Are you saying planets that didn't have the ability to vote suddenly turned back votes? I am the shock. It's like he just committed a coup and then killed anyone who disagreed with him and doesn't actually care, just wants to look funny. Because at this point, he's just consolidating the laughs. Sorry, power, but in this case, it's probably more accurate to say laughs. Because he's going to be a crackling madman.
Those who did report favorable voting turnout did so under extreme duress. But that hardly mattered, as Amaris was, at least provisionally, now the legal Director General of the Terran hegemony. This was abhorrent and horrific to the ruling classes, but it would set the acceptable precedent for generations afterward in practical regime change throughout the Inner Sphere.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense.
Once installed as the new Director General of the Terran hegemony.
Really? More Golden Corrals? Sorry, for a second I actually thought this was legitimate. It's like, wait, why is it not? Oh, because it's Golden Corral, they edited it in. It actually took me a second to realize, no, wait. They're editing in the Golden Corral. It's not actually a thing. It's not actually a thing. They're just joking around, right? I know there's a lot of brands I wasn't expecting to still be around that are around. Okay, I need to ask a question I didn't think I would actually need to ask. Is Golden Corral canonically part of the RimWorld Empire? I'm just going to drop this entire line of thought because it's... the only reason I'm even asking is because before when people were joking about like, yeah, we're going to do some GE and Apple products and Microsoft's Planet. And I'm like, that's funny. And then people are like, oh, no, that's the thing. That is a thing. Here they are. This is where you can find them on Sarna. They're a thing. I don't think I can just say it's a joke because while they're editing it in, I don't know if it is actually a joke or not because it might not be. And considering from what I've been told, the people behind Battletech currently have taken some of Tex's ideas and make them semi-canon. Yeah, we're just going to move on. It's safer that way.
He promised a grand new era of peace and prosperity, that House Cameron's foolishness and mistakes were now at an end, and that the future would be one of unity under his guiding hand.
Everybody's equally impressed.
This was not to be just a new hegemony,
still unity,
but a new Star League, reborn as an empire under the guiding vision and limitless power of a new emperor, bold enough to seize it. The HPG network's not...
Does anyone know the exact date this lore was created for Battletech? Because I want to see just how much before and or after or at the same time this came out for Star Wars. Because literally, he's just Palpatine. I know I've said this before, but it's just word for word. If Tex didn't make these literary choices, or I guess word choices, because he knew exactly what it sounded like, I would actually not be shocked because it just makes sense because this is what he literally did. So it's just an accurate description.
Not critically damaged were slowly reactivated, with the first circuit of SL ComNet firing up to deliver the announcement of Amaris'
If he just stopped being so tyrannical and just gave people what they wanted right away, they'd ignore him and let him have power.
A reality check. Kerensky's response was legend. No. The major houses offered something more ambivalent, though. Silence. The great houses did not lend him legitimacy, but they also did not mourn the fall of House Cameron. In a way, their silence answered many questions. First, it demonstrated their feelings about House Cameron. Richard Cameron suddenly disappearing after making some exceptionally poor decisions was seen as a favor, if not boon, to the great houses.
I mean, let's be completely honest. If Amaris had just come out and said, I killed him, he was incompetent, I'm taking over because of this, yeah, I don't think they would actually have an issue with that. And I know people are like, no, Kerensky would always fight. And I'm just sitting here like, maybe. And I don't have enough background detail that I refuse to look up in advance to say that he wouldn't. But it seems like if Amaris was just a little more tactful, and by a little, I mean massively more tactful, in how he treated Star League, instead of just fearing them, flat out pulling them in, just co-opting them like he was already doing pretty successfully. Like, literally, he didn't need to kill them. He already controlled them. And if he had just done that, cut down it, held the people rather than just flat out killing them whenever Kerensky would send people in, I'm assuming he killed them, but I don't think he would do anything else at this point. If he just was a little less overtly evil and, you know, megalomaniacal asshole who just got what he wanted and now doesn't need to hold back anymore, which he is why he's also not doing this, he probably could have pulled this off. Yeah, but of course he went about it and he was evil. And based on who he is, even though he could have done these things and he set him up to do these things, I keep coming back to this, but it's like you can see where Amaris is going to fail and he's going to set up problems that are going to get him and probably a lot of other people killed. And I don't think he cares. No, actually, I've scratched that. I know he doesn't care, which is why he's not thinking he had to do this. Will it fuck him over in the end? Oh, yeah, definitely. Will he care? No.
There was to be no more meddlesome madness from a fading line of bad rulers. No more directives,
and that's why he could,
laws, or missives
because
from
he's not
a child
Cameron
playing God.
He could get away with a lot for saying that.
Their silence also spoke volumes of the current assessment of the power balance. They were afraid, after all, and had every right to be. Amaris had done the impossible. He had orchestrated the defeat of the hegemony by stabbing it in the heart. He'd taken the head off the beast, so to speak. He'd overcome defenses designed to be impregnable, and he'd even given the SLDF a black eye.
Yes, and I guess how from the outside it would look that way. It's taking me a second to wrap my head around that because we know that the only way he could do that is through extreme control on the inside to put things in the position where he could win, which is also why I keep saying he didn't actually need to do a lot of this stuff afterwards because he functionally was already in charge. Literally just offing Cameron and killing the Black Watch were probably the only things he needed to do. Everything else, he could have come up with a way to just put people in charge to tell the baseline troops to just stand down. It would have been a lot easier. He didn't because he wanted to win and he wanted the security and he wanted the victory to destroy Star League. And of course, people saying that he was always going to betray Kerensky. It's like, yeah, I could see that, especially after his paranoia stuff came into play here. But it struck me as weird. The text says the great houses are afraid because I'm just sitting here going like, but why? Because we know he only succeeded. Oh yeah, because we know that. They maybe suspect it, but they don't know it for certain because they were ignoring a lot of the information that would have sent that over the edge. And like Kerensky was, and forgot how they kind of knew a lot of this shit was happening and just ignored it. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, just it's interesting seeing from their perspective suddenly that, oh yeah, we just watched him do the impossible while we know that it was only possible because he spent so long, like literal generations of his family to get to this point.
Had done the impossible and done so in such a way as they wondered what else might he have up his sleeve.
Probably
they considered, was Amaris waiting to topple them as well and challenging them to make the first move?
I mean,
in addition,
probably
you
waiting to see if they try.
Individually, the House militaries were somewhat limited by the preceding decades of Star League buildup. They'd been given every excuse to put trust in the SLDF and had done so as arms buildups were exceptionally, if not prohibitively, expensive.
Wait, they actually did that? I was honestly expecting them to say, oh yeah, we were ignoring you this entire time and building up a stockpile because we can, because fuck you. I was really expecting to hear that.
Also, SLDF Charter had regulated the size of their militaries, and as such,
only counts if you get
they
caught.
knew if they defied and then openly challenged Amaris, they might find themselves overthrown in the name of whatever the hell Amaris was smoking. But on the other hand,
ambition.
They also knew that if Kerensky returned and managed to restore the status quo, any assistance or...
House Lord is content to say nothing. Mocking Amaris' new hat is now illegal. Please tell me you have edited a bowler on every image from here on out.
Compliance given to Amaris would become, perhaps, problematic.
This is a summit.
As such, the House Lords said nothing and chose no sides.
So,
at least
enforce neutrality
officially.
just to see who wins.
However, it is interesting to note that the great houses immediately asked General Kerensky's intentions and for him to report his movements. The House Lords' response is reasonable. They had their own issues on their own home soil.
Because I'm assuming they use internal violence and shadow wars, which were kind of mentioned before, constantly. Both as ways to get one over on the neighbors and probably because there's a bunch of idiots who just wanted to have a war. Probably not all of them, but don't tell me there wasn't one. I'm assuming there was. It happens in real life, so it probably happens in fiction as well. Because there's a lot of people you can just say, hey, it happened on this one world that no one cares about. Because suddenly war, because we can. I fully expected someone to tell me this is actually going to happen. They'll give me a page number or a website link to Sarna. More importantly, I really like how we see different styles of clothing here. Normally in a lot of the art, you kind of just see a generalized look for all of the different houses that are very much the one image. It's kind of cool to see the differentiation here. It's like you can see a bit of what looks like a kimono maybe with a sash, or it might actually be tied in overall, something almost like shoulder based. This is probably the most sci-fi 70s style getup I've ever seen. It's like bulletproof armor or a vest or something like that, but also space. Just kind of cool. Yeah.
You see, the Starlink bureaucracy wasn't doing so well, and that somewhat made things difficult from an organizational standpoint. SLDF bureaucrats didn't know what to do.
Nice.
Follow instructions issued from the hegemony from a usurper. Follow instructions issued from a general far, far away. Follow instructions of the great house institutions they supported and paralleled. This wasn't just the case of paperwork and who stamps what. This was a financial network and banking system that held the wealth of billions upon billions of taxpayers.
There is a way out of this, but it's also one that they would never choose. The only way really to get out of a situation where everything's tied up with a bunch of people you don't want to deal with would be to create a new one and just replicate the finances based on your own internal records. And basically say, hey, yeah, you know all this digital stuff we have over here? It's over here now. Now, if you do that on your own and everyone else is like, no, that's not going to work. The only way it would work, though, is if they got the other great houses to do it, which would probably be taken as a sign of aggression to Amaris, and he would probably, murder them for that. And it would be a sign of aggression because it's literally cutting him out and saying, hey, all this money you have is now useless because we're just going to ignore it. Especially because it would actually be an attack on the banking system of the inner sphere, specifically the one that's controlled by the hegemony. While it would actually be a very good way to say, fuck you. And it might actually work, at least for the hegemony side. The RimWorld would probably have their own internalized structure that wouldn't be affected as much. So it'd be like, yes, you still have your base, but the new base you really wanted just became useless. More useless. If they all created their own internal system and just copied over the records and reconfigured it so that it would fit, it could be done, but it also involved, and more than any of the response by Amaris, it would involve all of the houses getting together en masse, trusting each other, giving internal records, sharing them, and creating a unified system distributed between the areas. if that sounds like something that's not going to happen with a giant pile of tech, like what created the entire Star League and all this shit to start with, yeah, I don't think it actually could. And this is before all the later stuff where there's just more and more grudges added in. So while this would work, and I would like to say the only reason it could work is because money can be replicated by countries, but it only fails when the money tries to change to a different area and suddenly over here it's worthless. But if you get rid of that one issue and it's the same value everywhere that you want to go, and the one place it isn't, which would be the hegemony, is then worthless there, you just don't go to hegemony. But if everywhere else that matters does have value of it and you just make that change over, you could do it. It falls apart whenever someone doesn't agree to it. And unfortunately, the people who wouldn't agree would be trusting anyone else among the High Lords, or the Great Houses, or Amaris not taking it as the attack that it is. Because it would basically be shitting on his new spanking new gem. Yeah, sort of more like a new toy than a gem even. A gem is beautiful. This is more... This is like a used toy that he ripped the arm off of and is soldering damage onto it because it looks cool. But he also fully intends to eat it and see what it looks like after he's finished with that. Yeah, I am honestly not sure if that's a joke or not, but based on everything people say, that's the level of crazy I expect this to get to.
This was the civil infrastructure and logistics system of the greatest nation ever formed. Bureaucrats across the inner sphere struggled with what to do. They were, after all, in a crisis of leadership. With communications difficulties, lack of orders, or in some cases countermanding orders, plus the House Lords offering integration opportunities with their existing systems, many bureaucrats just went home or found new jobs with their house governments, and when their checks started to bounce, they decided to walk away.
Yep.
Some civil servants desperately tried to maintain what services they could, believing in Star League as it fell, believing it may return someday. Most, however, turned their assets and...
I mean, technically they're right. It did sort of, somewhat in a bastardized version, return. Just not in a way they'd be okay with, probably.
Holdings over to the great houses in their jurisdictional territory, choosing to side with a stable government over one ruled by a potential psychopath.
Yeah.
Throughout Star League, the overnight conquest of the hegemony destabilized the Star League dollar, causing widespread economic chaos. The outages of the HPG network further caused rampant speculation and market woes. Without regulatory control or banking afforded by the Star League, financial institutions now either being abandoned or co-opted by the great houses, people pulled their money out of once...
Yep, there's what I was expecting. Co-opted by the great houses. Technically, it's kind of like what I said, but... they're basically doing it for themselves and internalizing rather than establishing a way to continue throughout. Technically, they did exactly what I was thinking, but they shot a little lower than I was hoping for. If they had basically just kept the banking system and redone it on their own, linked together, it would have essentially kept things going as it was, just cutting out Terra. Sorry, the hegemony. What they're doing is basically internalizing to, here is our fiefdom! Fuck all y'all! Which is basically how countries work right now anyways. And there's no shared unity except in like, well, I think technically the United Kingdom counts that way as well as the EU. So yeah, they're basically balkanizing. Further setting up the disassociation that makes it easier to have wars later on. Beyond, sociopathic assholes in charge. Are they all sociopathic assholes? No, I've been told there's actually quite a few competent people who have taken over the great houses. Balanced out by just as many sociopathic assholes. That's how it's been explained to me in low detail, mostly because I is stupid and don't get the big detail parts. Yeah.
Safe Star League investments. Throughout the inner sphere, investors transferred enormous wealth from what was once saved Star League monetary investments and bonds into house bills.
Oh, this is actually really cool. Not just because of what it is. This is the equivalent of Star League or like an interplanetary stock market right here. And to represent which one it is, it's actually pictures of, it looks like the night sky or the space map or the star map from that planet, showing that location in space. Then behind it are the various transactions from it. This is really neat because it looks like, at least based on what the image shows right here, in general, you don't really need Wall Street as it functions now because so much can be done digitally, and it's more just a holdover because it's traditional here. And it gives a sense of control to put a centralized place. You can just do things in person, but a lot of it's just done electronically now. And it's more a traditional sense that we actually have Wall Street or the equivalent in various countries. And it's not really an individual location. It's just the access point. Here, though, because of the nature of the HPG, having one input source showing the information in one location probably makes a lot of sense because it would be the first place to distribute it because it would be the first place to get it. So any place where this happened is probably really close to a receiver just because information is easiest, best to get without any delay. I don't know how much delay there is. I don't think it's delay between information sent. It's more based on the relay aspects. Basically, handover packets, information of large size being correlated and said, hey, here's what we're getting from this corner, and they're actually showing it here. Sorry, it's really cool to see how the art is actually telling you about what's going on here. I thought this was about just some random place with the cool stuff, and it might just be a terminal for all I know. But based on what Tex is saying and what it kind of looks like, I think this is more like the equivalent of Star League era Wall Street.
As soon as they were able.
Or it could just be an airport.
Folks saw the writing on the wall and voted with their wallet. To the common citizen, Star League as an investment, either financially or the future, was doomed.
Yep. And so would be Terra.
And as General Kerensky carefully deliberated his actions, as
Free
he knew
Fiesta
full
Pale
well
on
that
joining.
rash action in this time would doom the cause of Star League. Amaris continued to reshape the hegemony into his new empire. For to occupy a nation, as stated before, is one thing, but to reshape it, that takes time. As stated earlier, Amaris had founded the Hegemony Security Forces, and those began rapidly forming huge contingents on every occupied hegemony world, recruiting most heavily from those least loyal to Star League, least loyal to the Camerons, and most swayed by money or the promise of power.
That definitely won't backfire at all. The least loyal to Camerons? Okay, that actually could still leave quite a few bit of people because Cameron fucking was an idiot. Dumb ass. Like, literally, he made enemies he didn't need to make. And I know he was doing it mostly because he was manipulated, but also at the same time, it comes a point where you make so many mistakes, it doesn't matter if you were used, you're still the one doing it. And he's the example of that until he just, couldn't get ahead of it anymore. I gave Tex flack for that pun earlier. I don't regret what I just did. I really don't. But yeah, then he's like, oh yeah, the most swayed by money. Because you now control the main bank, so you have access to it, and you can basically say, hey, those Star League funds that we're not paying anymore? Guess where they're going? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Problem, of course, being greedy assholes who don't actually have any loyalty are most likely to stab you in the back as soon as it looks like they're not going to get paid and or actually face consequences. Yeah. And that was part 2 of the Amaris Civil War part 2, which I know is really confusing. I'm just going to say the Amaris Civil War. You know what we're doing. Amaris Civil War 2 part B. Sure, let's do that. That actually makes a lot of sense. Why didn't I do that to start with? I'm blaming COVID head. Is that a thing? I don't know, but I'm going to blame it. Yeah. Part of the reason I'm cutting this one here is because I am losing my voice. I'm sure nobody realized that. Yeah, it's annoying. Overall, though, for everyone watching, I just love this. I love going on it. If you can answer any of the questions I had, because there's definitely a few, let me know. If you let me know about spoilers, I'll come back to it after I think I've got far enough to actually read it again. But that's just in general because I try to avoid spoilers, which I realize in hindsight makes it hard to answer questions because I'm asking for material that would technically count as spoilers at this point. I am not setting easy standards to accomplish, am I? Oh well. Either way, you guys know the deal. Link below, original video, hit it up. And if you can, wish me luck, because I'm really hoping for a negative test result, but yeah, I went because all of my family just tested positive. So far, everyone's safe, so I'll take that as a sign of good luck. And if the most I get out of this is this and fever. But other than that, if this is the most of it, I'm going to be just really lucky here and be happy with that. All the same, thanks for everyone watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.